And good morning, everyone. It's great to see everyone here. I'm really excited about this 30 Years of Globe campaign webinar facilitated by members of our STEPI team. So very honored to work with these fantastic humans. We have our presenters today in this GLOBE Chronicles of Change webinar are Dr. Rusty Lowe, who is the Deputy Director of Science for the GLOBE Implementation Office of Science, Training, Education, and Public Engagement. And co-presenting with Rusty is Cassie Soeffing, who is a senior science educator with the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies and also a member of our STEPI team. So they're going to walk us through an activity that can be adapted for students, and I'm really excited to learn from them today. So I'll turn it over to y'all. Thank you for being here, everybody.
Thanks, Allison. Okay, I think this is Cassie and I are going to be co-presenting this, so you'll hear two voices today as we move forward with our presentation on Chronicles of Change. This is an activity, a technology infused activity that assists our students in learning about and using remote sensing data, using globe data. It is actually something that I was doing with my students when I was actually a professor at the University of Nebraska. I did this both with the teachers in our graduate program as well as the undergraduates who took a course called Climate in Crisis, and this was their final project. So it's been since adapted to be infused with a lot of the new technology tools that are available to teachers and to students that are free, no cost, and also build science, science literacy and computational literacy skills. We are going to talk today about the Globe Chronicles of Change, a scrapbook of your community's environmental transformation. And Cassie, I love this subtitle that you gave us here because really this is the digital equivalent to a scrapbook. And I think that that's, for a lot of people, that's a nice way of thinking about what we're going to be doing. One of the reasons we wanted to put this in the IVSS speaker series this year is that if you have not yet started a IVSS project, and if you're looking for something that you might be able to do relatively quickly, that is also very compelling and may not need a tremendous amount of uh, globe data, although all IVSS projects do need to have globe data. But if you don't have a specific research project in mind, this is a very nice place-based research project that you could do and you could submit as a IVSS project. So as we go through, when the one of us that's going to be talking, the other one of us is going to be monitoring the chat. Put your comments and your ideas and your questions in the chat, and we hope to answer those in real time because we have a whole hour, so we have plenty of time to do that. Cassie, will you get us started?
Sure. Thanks, Rusty. Rusty and I co-teach a virtual internship during the summer. And this past summer, we had our students do a climate chronicle. And they used the data that they had collected from Globe Observer, and they had a chance to put it all together. And that is one of the things that we'll share is their climate chronicle. So you have that as kind of a template. But we look at this as a structure place-based exploration because you're looking at the area where you are at, your local area. And in that local area, you have topics such as environmental justice issues, health challenges, and then current and future climate concerns that you may have noticed in your area. If you're in California, one of those is going on right now.
Mm.
So let's talk about what a scrapbook of your climate chronicles can be. We want to think of it as a story. And so taking a look at, and I just kind of bulleted some different kind of entryways that you could use to get in. So what is your community's history? Have you lived there for a long time? If you have or haven't, since we're such a transient world anymore, it's kind of a good way to step back and see what has evolved since you've been there or changes that for are planned. Um, are they, how are they important to you? How do they impact you? Because until we make a connection with change for us, it's kind of hard to understand what's going on. Taking a look at your favorite outdoor leisure activities. Are there environmental issues that impact? Are you in for example, I work with the mosquito habitat mapper tool in the Globe Observer app. And so are you noticing, for example, more mosquitoes in your area than you have in the past? If you've noticed and you're using the Observer tool again, have you, and you're documenting land use or trees, for example, is the urban sprawl in your area taking down some of your favorite trees? Are you seeing more impervious areas that are built up? Things that affect you or that you've noticed are super great to put into your scrapbook. Personal stories, they connect these changes. Anything to add, Rusty? I'm going to pause and say yes.
Yeah, no,
Rusty
that's
will
yeah.
interject
And
always.
one of the things that Cassie and also we did this with Peter Nelson with our high school students that are in the NASA um, STEM Enhancement and Earth Sciences Summer Research Fellowship or internship. And the idea is, this is something that you can do with students that maybe don't have a lot of background in environmental science. They're just getting going. And so starting from what they care about, people usually care about where they live and things, and they have seen things that have happened over time, whether right now it's the big fires we have in California, USA, or hurricanes that take place, or the fact that the skiing season has become a lot shorter and it's become a lot slushier. These are things that people recognize when they're outside. So these are why we have developed these different kinds of questions because the personal stories connect people to the science because they go through what they care about. So thank you for that, Cassie. Let's go to the next slide.
So before we go on, could you, raise your hand and let me know how many of you are kind of teetering on the edge of putting an IVSS project together or structure to help your kids get started? Have you already started, or are you just kind of checking out the data first? So first off, are you doing the IVSS or thinking about it? And you can just raise your hand. Okay. So we want this is for you. This is going to be like the easy way to get in your first time to see how it goes, and then next year you can maybe grow the project. So we've got the background stories, you know a little bit about your community, but now we're going to connect some data. So one of the things that adds a little bit of depth to your project is finding at least 5 other people. It could be 10, depends on your community, who are older than you, that could maybe add to your background. If you are a newcomer to your community, finding somebody older might be somebody in your neighborhood. It might be a teacher and another teacher in the classroom in your school. Anything that would help you build some context for what's changed or what things were like when they were younger in your community.
And
And then
and the
as we,
reason, oh, I'm sorry. And the reason why we say people that are older than you, because this was designed specifically for actually originally undergraduate students, and now we do it with um, you know, uh, primary and middle school and high school students. But the idea is that this is a little bit of an ethnography they do. And what I found out when I was doing this in Nebraska is that people would ask their grandparents or their neighbor, "How are things different?" And they'd say, "When I was a kid, the snow was this deep and it was this long." Another student said, "We have a lake place." And my grandfather has been identifying when ice out comes every year, and it's almost 3 weeks later than it was when he was a younger adult. So we found some really, really interesting impressions that people had, and these essentially frame our hypothesis that people can go forward with. Thank you, Cassie.
Mhm. And as Rusty mentioned, your favorite outdoor leisure activities in the winter, if you're a four-season place and you have snow, do you have as much snow base to work off of? In South Dakota, where I'm at in the eastern side, we had a total of 35 days kids could be outdoors with snow activities last year. And unfortunately, this year's looking to be even less than that. So that's changed from when I was younger. And are there environmental issues that are impacting your community? Perhaps you've noticed that there's more particulate matter in the air than you've noticed before. Your air quality may not be what it was a few years ago. These are all variables that could come out through those conversations with older people, and it will come out in perhaps your GLOBE data. So just to kind of wrap this up, are there extreme events that you've had? Again, in my area, we've had extreme flooding. Because the ground's so dry, when it does rain, it literally overflows all the riverbanks that are around. Um, Snowstorms, if you're on the East Coast and you're not expecting all the snow that you've had, is that an extreme event that is unusual for your area? Now, the personal stories, as we mentioned, connect to these changes. And think about how isn't, if you're doing it in a classroom with students, where you can start putting their notes. And so I'm just going to throw this out there, but Google Docs is a free and easy place for you to start having kids kind of start collecting their stories. It's an easy access, low entry type of a program. All right, so we've collected the stories, and now we want to really add the information that will add the meat to your IVSS project. And so data sources, I'm just suggesting these three main kind of categories. There's lots of other ones, but as a way to get started, you can take a look at the citizen science data that's in both GLOBE and GLOBE Observer. There's a rich archive, and Rusty will talk about that just a moment. We have remotely sensed images, and we have lots of ways that we can access them. And everything that we're sharing is a no cost. So you don't have to pay. There's no subscription. There's easy way to get in. And then for extreme events, there's a couple of federal agencies that have great data, NASA Worldview and the NOAA climate data. So Rusty, did you want to talk briefly about the Globe Observer and Globe database?
Sure. I would love to just mention this briefly. And for those of you who are veteran teachers and scientists, you know that all the data that's collected by our community is available free of charge. You can look at it through the Globe visualization system. You can access it through the Advanced Data Access Portal system. And so we can talk about that. And then all the data that is collected by citizen scientists using the Globe Observer app, all that data is also associated in these databases. So for instance, if you are working in, let's choose a place, Benin, for instance, and you want to do some, the students have identified that mosquitoes have become a serious problem because right now there's a big problem with malaria. You could go to the Globe data sets, download the data, and then plot the data to see what kinds of changes might have occurred as you and analyze this. And Allison has just put some links in there, and also Becky for the visualization system for Globe. Great. So let's move on, and we will talk about some of these things later.
Yep.
Becky, I'm sorry, Cassie, why don't you talk about these data sources in more detail?
Thank you. Just as a quick review, the Globe has 250 million measurements of through all the various protocols. They have a rich 30-year database that you can choose from, and you can narrow down to Earth as a system. Globe Observer has been collecting citizen science data for 7 years now. 7 years now, and added to the GLOBE database. And so if you'd like your students to actually be the collectors of data and they're 13 or over, you could use your citizen science app in the GLOBE Observer. You can access it by looking at the different spheres. It's super easy. If you haven't quite got your access with your login name to get to the data, you can do it without. I'm not logged in my example here at all, but I chose some land cover pictures, and I chose 1 year, and this just shows me for one date on Monday how many pictures for that particular day, how many observations are available. And so if there's not one in your area, you can be the person that's adding to the database and fill in those gaps for us also. For temperature data, just for example, again, if you're looking for a way to compare data in your area over time, you could take solar noon temperatures. And again, this was just the information on Monday. These people must have automatic weather stations. And so they've got that 30-year history with the data. And so you could do a comparison from your latitude and see what's changed and what's different. This is all in the GLOBE Visualization Studio. And so you can have students take a virtual tour around the world and see what data is like where you're at. The cool thing about this whole database is that I picked this data point right here and I clicked on it, and under measurements for the air temperature, it showed me a graph from that station. So I have that data right there. If I was a teacher, I could grab that and ask the students to pick another spot and do the same thing, and you can make your comparison right here. If I want to see that data a little bit clearer, if I click on that part of the tool, I'll end up with this data set. So it shows me a spreadsheet. Now, if you were to follow along with me right now and have some experience and go, Cassie, that's not exactly what it looks like when you do this, you're right. Because all these different columns, you can choose to hide them or not before you download them. So you don't have to take this whole big spreadsheet of data. You can narrow it down to just what you wanted. And so all I wanted was the date, the current temp, and the min and max temps that I wanted to build a graph from. And then you choose to export to a CSV file. And so you can bring it into Numbers, you can bring it into Excel or any other spreadsheet that you have. And then from there, here's that data into my spreadsheet. I can make my graph. So again, you can make some comparisons with this data in a couple of lessons with your class and ask them to do some deeper dive into thinking about what that really means to big picture of where you're living. Any questions so far?
Yeah, while we're waiting for questions, I just want to point out that this year for the 30 Years of Globe campaign that we're doing, and also the IVSS topic, looking at 30 years of data, this is a very easy, using this tool in Viz is a great way to look at what we call a time series, looking at data over time, a diachronic view. And a lot of the data analysis tools are built in for you for those students that are just beginning to get involved in doing data science. Of course, if you download the data and generate your own graphs, you can do some simple statistics and build those skills as well. But what we're talking about here is maybe a way to for those of you who have not yet put together a IVSS project, this is a nice way to start. Becky, go ahead, and you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you. This is absolutely wonderful, Rusty and Cassie, what you're presenting here, and just I think it's going to resonate well with a lot of people. But I just wanted I put in the chat a plug-in for the Snow IOP because Cassie, in talking about her own observations about snow in South Dakota, I think it was, or North Dakota, I can't remember which. here's an easy way also to contribute new data and connect it with people's knowledge of the air background of what their climate has been like around snow, and contribute to the IOP. So anyway, just putting a plug for that as a possible option to connect present with past and people's local and indigenous knowledge.
Thank you. Rusty, there's a question. Can students use their Chromebook to take pictures and then upload them, or do they need to use their phone?
Right. So I just answered that, Cassie. And
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
no, Sarah, that's a great question. And unfortunately, and I think it's tragic, but because Chromebook is a really different infrastructure than phones, the Globe Observer app does not work on Chromebooks. It works on other kinds of tablets and it works on iPads, but does not work on Chromebooks. So with Chromebooks, you can actually, of course, you can access this data through the Globe website and through the ADAT portal and through GlobeViz, but you can't actually use the app. So I hope that answers your question, but please rephrase if that doesn't get you where you need to go. Okay, Cassie.
Thanks. Okay, so I'm not quite done with this, but what if you were taking a look at these solar noon temperatures again, and you clicked on this magnifying glass here? What do you think we'd end up with? We'd end up with a built-in chart automatically, not even having to build it into your own spreadsheet. And this one is from, and it tells you the name of the school. Not that that would matter, but you would have their Latin long, so you could see what location it was at. And it's got a graph title right here. So you can build out and take a look and screenshot these and include them in some of your research projects also. Moving on to other data sources, the Globe Observer is a free app again, and it is taking clouds, mosquitoes, land cover, and tree observations. When there's an eclipse, then they activate that option, so you can take air temperature readings 2 hours before, during, and then after. And all of that data, all your observations, including field notes that you might make and comment sections. Every picture you take, you can add a comment to, which I think is great for documenting and putting it in your project. It's kind of like your own scrapbook there. All that
Field notes.
field
Yeah,
notes
yeah.
goes into the database. And so here's an example of the type of pictures. You take 6 pictures, 4 in each direction, 1 up and 1 down. And what's wonderful is it's so easy to do that you could literally make an observation from the same spot every day for a year and notice what's going on. And that would be a great project also. We use it with our kids, and we have them plot out a grid that's 3 kilometers by 3 kilometers, and then they take observations at each one of those spots, and we plot that. But that was one of our strategies, and so that might be something you take a look at too with your Globe site. Oops, forget those arrows. They were just, I talked over top of them, sorry. We've all done that. And this is,
no, I'm sorry, Cassie, go back to the action strategy, because I think that's really important. The last point there with the actionable data for community use. I'll just fill in here that this is something that NASA has put out recently. It's the Earth Science to Action Strategy. All their research is addressing how Earth science data can be utilized to better inform our practices, our legislation, and ensuring that everybody has access to a healthy and sustainable environment. And so, that is really one of the reasons why this particular tool is so useful, because we are looking to identify data that can be used by communities, in this one little activity. So it aligns very, very nicely. Okay, Cassie, go on. Yeah.
thank you. If you're unfamiliar with the Globe Observer tool, the screenshots, the first one are the 5 data collection options, Eclipse being the 5th one. Again, you can use this as a tool for consistency. How many days can you make observations? And the app keeps track, and you can earn badges. and you can see just your observations anytime you want with the tools that are built in right here, and see where you've been and what you've made for observations. And this just says, okay, there's a streak of my observations for land cover, but trees, clouds, and mosquitoes, so you can see how many days you've done for each one. All right, here we go. We're on to the second category, the remotely sensed part. And this is the part that we'd really like to emphasize, is there's so many ways to get into the free. I don't know about any of you folks, but when I first started with Globe, it was pretty exciting to get a scene from my school. And that scene cost $600. That was the minimum. And we could take a look at the change, and the pixels were ginormously big. It was like looking at some image zoomed in for a long time. But now the resolution is so much better. And I've got a document that I'm going to put into the chat in just a minute when Rusty starts talking, with all of these links. But this one is pretty cool because it shows you exactly where on the globe this particular satellite is tracking. So you have an idea of the rotation and why it takes so long every 16 days to get back around to your location. And so, I mean, the globe is a pretty big planet to cover, and the satellite is doing the best it can. But on January 2nd, and if you click that, then it shows you the track and the play of the different satellites. So there's Landsat 7, 8, and 9 that you can see. The one that we're really excited about, and this is the one that I wish I were still in the classroom because it is so fun. But I'm going to drop, whoops, Rusty, throw that in the chat
I
right
will throw
away,
that
will
in the
you?
chat. Yep.
So this is a tool from Google, using Google Earth Engine, and it's just a video that I was playing there. But it goes, it's going through an area. I typed in Huron, South Dakota, just because it's a place north of us. But from 1984 to 2024, it's showing a sample image of the same location, the same month, and you can take a look at the changes in the satellite imagery. My movie idea seemed really good when I did it to myself, but in presentation mode, it's not the best. So if you picked a particular spot, this spot right here is this spot on the city map. And so if you watch it, you can kind of see the ag fields as they're being planted or changed, or the use is different. And so all you have to do is type in your location at the top, and you have to be patient because it does take a while to pull these images in. It'll say processing in this area underneath on the screen in the app when you're doing it. And then you can copy and paste any of the images so you can see your particular area also. The next tool that I think is just a wonderful tool, and that's just earth.google.com. We've all used this one for years. When it first came out, we thought it was amazing. But they've redone some things, and they've added the time-lapse feature, and it goes back to 1984. And that's the same with the Google Earth Engine. And that's the same with some of our other data. Having at least a 37-year history is pretty great to have. But if you click on this part right up here, it'll take you to the time lapse, and a whole truck of features will come at the top. And it creates a video, and you can play it back at half time, one time, or two times, just to kind of see what has, city growth again for urban areas, what's changed. So you can add this information to your scrapbook page. Yeah, here's my attempt at another movie. So here's the Google stuff. I clicked on time lapse and then play, and it's just showing me that same area in Huron, what's changed. So anyway, there's that. That's pretty impressive. And when I did GIS day with kids in the classroom, the coolest part for them was looking at historical images going, wait a minute, that's not a field, or that was a field, and I'm living in what used to be somebody's cornfield now because the city has spread out in one direction or the other. So you can use that to add to your personal stories in your scrapbook. NASA Worldview, you just have to register your email to get an account to sign in. But if you go here, you can pull up a whole bunch of natural events, hurricanes, tornadoes, water, flooding, and everything. And again, you can see the images that are shown, but you can also go back in time, and it's pretty impressive that it's current within a day. So you can actually look at real world events like the fires that are happening, and you just pick whatever theme you want, and you fill in the turn on or off the different layers as you see fit. But you can send it to yourself. You can make a snapshot. You can make a little mini movie, but taking a slider to go back and forth across the day is a very useful tool. And for environmental information, you can go to NOAA, to the National Centers for Environmental Information. And I put the website here. Again, I have this all in one document. I'll send you when I stop talking and Rusty starts. And then mosquito danger days. Again, since I work with the Mosquito Project, I'm pretty excited to share this information. Whoop. But you can type in your city, and the website takes about 3 to 4 of the major cities in every state to show you how many more mosquito danger days you have based on the temperature. So things are warming up here in Mitchell, South Dakota. And from 1979 to 2022, there's 5 more days where the temperature is warm enough where we have more chances to watch out for West Nile virus.
And you know what's interesting about that, Cassie, is that, for instance, if you're looking at Honolulu, Hawaii, or any place that's in the tropics, you may have absolutely no change in how many days you have mosquitoes. But in some places, in higher, in upper latitudes, you do see significant changes. And I know that in the U.S., one of the big cities that has had the biggest change is Reno, where we almost have a full month difference in the amount of days that are warm enough for mosquitoes. So it has, 5 days may not seem like much, but depending on where you are, it can be a very significant change. And because insects are cold-blooded, right? They're poikilotherms, and because they are so responsive, um, insects are one way that we are seeing that life is responding to climate change much more quickly than perhaps humans or long-lived things like trees. Thank you.
Thanks. So let's just take a look at how to put the whole project again together. To put the whole project together, first of all, find a map of your area. You can use Google Earth. You can use the globe map. You can zoom in. You can take screenshots of whatever you would need to add to it. Think about how to describe it, your ecology, again, your climate zones, a brief history, the demographics. Is there anything that distinguishes your community? And tell the story using the images that you collected. Again, you can paste pictures into Google Docs for the kids can do that as a way to keep track of their digital storytelling. And I know that everybody's had a chance, if you've attended any of some of the GLOBE webinars, Padlet is used often. And I decided I would take a look at how I could do a Climate Chronicle scrapbook using Padlet. And so I set up a timeline Padlet for Hawaii. And I thought maybe early on, because I found some information about, or photographs from what it used to look like. And you could do it by decade. And then if you were doing your own community, for example, you could have, if that's where the kids are reporting on, you could have everybody contribute and make a card with pictures that they've collected. This is their story in one one comment here. But I put the link to my Padlet there, and so anybody can go in and take a look at it and see if it's something that would work for you. And in Padlet, you can embed videos, you can embed audio, you can copy paste pictures, you can type a lot of text. You have a lot of flexibility with that tool. Oh. So the one that I think probably, well, we've got the most examples of is story maps. And there are two different types of story maps. One of them is the ArcGIS story map, where if you need an ESRI ARC online account. For educators in most areas, that's free. But if it's not in your area, they also have a community or personal version called storymaps.com. And this I just wanted to play because it's an idea for how you can put everything together and get excited about it.
You have stories to tell and want the world to know. Now there's a new digital storytelling tool like no other. Introducing Story Maps. Express yourself. Share your ideas and experiences any way you want. It gives you the ability to explore what you love and show what you're passionate about. It's fast and easy to use, no matter your digital skills. Design a style you love. Create dynamic and thematic maps. Edit and show off your photos. Add custom text anywhere. Or make a point with side-by-side views. When you've finished your masterpiece, you can keep it as a journal. Share it with friends and family. Or publish it for the world to enjoy. Story Maps. Every place has a story, and every story has a place. Tell yours.
So that's the story map. And I have a link here that I'm going to take you out to show you, but these are the story maps. Now we're using the ESRI ARC story map version. And so with this globe that's showing here, when you look at it on the, hold on just a moment, I'll see if I can make that magic.
And one of the things that we're hoping to see is what if we got these stories from all over the world? We would have that map, on the globe, in this oh, what do you call it, Cassie, when it's all put together? It's like
A
a
collection.
directory. Yeah, a correct collection or directory. We would have everything from all over the world, and people could just go to like, oh, what is this story in Thailand? How about a story in Finland? How about a story in Peru? So this is one thing that we're hoping to build as a way to, also connect our globe community more effectively by saying, these are the things we're facing. What are the things you're facing? And we have done this with our students, which are primarily North American, for the C's for the NASA internship. But we can do this all over the world. Thanks.
So and this is a template. This isn't any skill that I have, but this is a template, and I picked the 3D globe, and I placed the locations, just the city and the state of our students. And here is the collection, and you can order the collection in any order you'd like, but I'm just going to click on one. It's not the best one, but images from her community. And her regional description, she talks about the population growth of her community. And some of these are just a little slower to come in, so be patient here. But there's a map that she's got. Oh, agree. From her city GIS department. She talks about the ecology and then pictures, and you can go to more information about the community.
And those pictures were taken using the Globe Observer website. I mean, the Globe Observer tool. So that is also, how you can bring in Globe data into this particular story.
And she used the same Earth Engine app, and she had, again, it's not you, it's me. And so there's just some information here. You could do a comparison between the two images. And these are the locations where she did her observations at. She just put them on a map. And each one's a little bit more. And her perspective on the environmental transformation her community has made.
So some of that text there comes from her ethnographic studies, where she asks 5 people what about things that they're concerned about. So it is pretty interesting because you can get a lot of detail and develop a lot of cool research hypotheses.
So this is hers. And as I mentioned, whoops, you can go back to, you can go back and forth between the different areas in your collection, and back to a different share. And so that's what these are. And so you can take a look at those too. And that again is in a link that we'll send out. And then this is the storymap.com get started. If you want to know how you can do it, there's 2 ways. You can do it right in a template. You can pick the template, or you can do it in your app in your phone. And those are the things that I think that they're really emphasizing, is that you can make all these observations. I'm guessing I wasn't sharing.
What?
My screen sharing, it says, is paused. Is that true?
Yeah, we're stuck on that. We're stuck on the page that says project sharing, story maps, Earth system explore. There you go.
Okay, sorry. So you can use it as a journaling feature. When I taught, if the kids were gone, I don't know if they still do this, but their parents would pull them out for a few days before and after a holiday, and they always would ask for homework. And I thought, shoot, this would have been the perfect tool to have students collecting data and doing science and journaling work while they're out on a fun trip with their family. Because you're taking pictures, you're writing, and you're on your phone. What else is there? So just to kind of summarize, the first part, to get started, you need to gather your stories, your photos, and your online data, and pick the tool that works best for you. If it's Padlet, it's free. You can create an account. If your school district possibly has one, you could do that. Or you could use storymaps.com. That's the free one. And you can create your own account then. Be creative when you put your story together. And in summary, this is local context, and you can make actionable items. Maybe there's some place that everybody in your classroom has said needs to be cleaned up. Maybe that's one of the environmental justice concern issues. You can do grassroots advocacy for change by showing people what has happened over time. And then you're getting local and culturally relevant information and knowledge, and everybody can do it. So that's it for me, Rusty.
Okay, well, I think that's perfect because we wanted to talk for 45 minutes. We're at 45 minutes, and now we're hoping that we can have a discussion with folks here about how you might use it or ways we could improve the tool, interests that you have. We would just love to just share some thoughts. So